Evening. It is 5 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to everybody to the regular monthly meeting of the Indian River County Hospital District. And to anybody that's watching on TV, welcome as well. We will go ahead and get started tonight. First and foremost, we will have an invocation by Pastor Araceli Romero.
Good evening, everyone. If you please close your eyes and bow your heads and pray with me. Heavenly Father, I thank you for each and every one of us who are gathered today in this place, for the men and women who work hard for the well-being and health of our community. Holy Spirit, we ask you to lead this meeting and ask you for wisdom when making decisions, and ask you for resources for each project they may have. I also pray for unity, peace, and love among themselves. I bless every person who volunteers. I bless all medical centers. I bless all Indian River County Hospital District members. I bless every person who contributes financially. I bless every person who works hard to make Indian River County better. I bless their families, Lord. I declare open heavens for Indian River County. In Jesus' name we pray. And we put in your hands the Strategic Plan 2019 to 2021. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
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 Amen. Thank you so much. Michael,
Yes.
will you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Michael. We will go into the consent agenda. I would like a motion for the approval of the special meeting minutes dated January 9th, the chairman's meeting minutes dated January 16th, the regular monthly meeting minutes dated January 17th, and a February money disbursement of Mr. Jones.
$1,115,481.32.
Can I hear a motion?
So moved.
A second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. I don't really have a lot to report today. We have some things to go through here, except that we are in the middle of working with the community to ensure that all of us and all of our community members are taken care of here. And there'll be a lot more on that later on. So that's I think all we need to say. The district council is not here tonight. She's not feeling well. The report is in your packets. So you can go ahead and read those for yourself. So we'll move right into the financial statement. Mr. Jones.
Okay, thank you. The district remains in sound financial condition. The latest bank statement reflects about $11.5 million, with another $1.8 million projected still to be received. Of course, all that's less than $1.15 million we just spent. But it leaves us with a balance of about $12.2 million for the balance of the year, which would be more than adequate to fund our budgeted programs for healthcare services and the administrative expenses for the balance of the year. Later on this evening, you'll be getting an update from our auditors. But you should know that in working with the auditor, Morgan, Jacoby, Thurn, Boyle, and Associates, we've decided it's a good time to further review our process for payments and financial management. So we're going to undergo that review. We're working already some with the auditing firm, but we'll be back to you with our recommendations probably in a month, if any, on any changes we might propose. And that's all I'm going to say right now.
Okay. I'm sure the disbursement now is reflecting the change to the $500,000 a month to Cleveland?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure of that. Any Any comments, questions for Mr. Jones? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Executive Director report. Anne Marie Soriano.
Okay, my report is also in your packet and was actually a whole full page this month. Aside of the items there, which I think I did mention a little bit about the Gifford RFP process, we have finished our internal final draft of that. I'm hoping that I can get that distributed to you tomorrow as we finish it up so that you have a little bit of time to look at it before we meet next week to get any feedback that we might need to have from both the public and yourselves before we distribute that the beginning of March or so.
And that meeting next week is?
Is on the 27th at 1:30.
Okay. And anybody is welcome to?
That is open to the public, as are all of our meetings. Yes, 1:30, the 27th, at our offices.
Let me go back and
Go ahead.
answer your question more accurately about the hospital. We pay the hospital a month behind. In other words, they get bills in December and we pay them in January. And so the January disbursement is our last payment for December. So for services rendered in December under the old agreement. So beginning February 1st, we will be at a flat $500,000 a month. In this disbursement, it was $640,000 to reflect indigent care
Okay,
actual results. So just
okay.
clarify.
So next month we'll see.
Right. From now on, it's capped.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me. I just wondered because it seemed like at about the same level as,
Well, that's
and because it is.
because it is.
Because it is. Okay, that explains that. Okay, funded agency quarterly report, Mental Health Association. Either one. Take your pick. You can both be at one, or you can both be at your own. It doesn't matter.
Good afternoon. I know many of you, but for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Nick Capola. I'm the new CEO of the Mental Health Association. Glad to be here. I'd like to say thank you very much for all that you do for our community and helping us help them. I believe that we're the premier mental health institution in this community, and we've been around since 1958, incorporated in 78, and we know you believe in us, and we appreciate your faith and continued cooperation. To start with, if you take a look, this is our quarterly report for the first quarter of our fiscal year. Our fiscal year starts in October and ends in September, like most nonprofits, instead of a calendar year. There are a number of services provided, client satisfaction and outcomes for the MHA Walk-In and Counseling Center and 3 drop-in centers on this report. The Walk-In and Counseling Center provides a full range of mental health services to our clients. We have mental health counselors, social workers, a psychologist, psychiatrist, and psychiatric nurse practitioners. The first part of this report will address the number of mental health services provided by MHA for the first quarter of this fiscal year. On this slide, as you can see, the MHA's unduplicated client count for the clients receiving hospital district funding was 140. There were 32 Indian River Hospital District pending screenings, of which 19 obtained Indian River Hospital District funding. This is Jeannie. She's our clinical director. This is Angela, my chief operating officer. Sorry for not introducing them earlier. However, this is the first time I've had to present in front of this board, so I'm a little nervous. Basically, there were 20 diagnostic assessments done with clients who qualified for hospital district funding. The number of psychotherapy visits was 526. There were 30 case management, 114 psychiatry visits, which include 12 new admissions, 47 group therapy visits, and 15 visits to psychoeducational classes this quarter.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
If you go back, can you go back?
Sure.
Okay, the psychotherapy, even though the hospital district clients were roughly a third, a quarter of a third of your total clients, they were over 50% of the psychotherapy. Can you just,
That's a good observation. You know, we do find that the acuity level of people's mental health issues are increasing with who we're seeing and starting care with, and also the life stressors and additional problems that people have that are indigent. Either that they're unemployed or the working poor do lead them to have more significant symptoms and concerns.
And what's going on is the psychoeducational, it's mindfulness groups, and we've realized that people from the community weren't coming in during the day, so we're gonna start having some in the evening, so people working can start participating in those. And as well as the group therapy, we're starting to involve Medicare patients in there, which is a billable service. Otherwise, group therapy is very expensive for people to afford, although we have a low rate for the hospital district. But we're starting to get more and more Medicare people in those group therapy programs, so.
yeah, well, I was just wondering from a perspective of the clients that we take care of, I mean, is there more that we
You
could
know,
or
this
should?
quarter, just remember, it's October through December, it's holiday time, so the numbers
The
are
stressor's
really
gone.
low, so, you know.
We've already tripled our numbers in January, monthly numbers from the prior ones. so
It's just always a low time of year too, so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think they were wrong, I just
Yeah.
think that it's an interesting observation that,
It's not unexpected and it's not unusual though for us.
okay.
The next section, basically, of the report provides walk-in counseling center, clinical outcome and client satisfaction data. I'm gonna turn that over to Jeannie.
Thank you, Dr. Nick. You know, our clinical outcomes that we look at, there are two measures for clients that we see for ongoing care, which is our therapeutic services, our individual therapy, and then clients that we see for screening. So we look at two measures for clients that are admitted into the full course of care, which is their discharge outcomes. So those are only clients that have completed a course of care during this quarter. We self-set the rate of 70% successful discharge from care. And, you know, clients do drop out of care and are treatment non-compliant, or don't come to enough visits where, you know, we have to broker transition to another type of care or facility. And so for the quarter, we had 68%, which was 2 points shy of our 70% outcome that we had imposed. And then we always look at the efficacy of our clinical care. So we look at objective measures, as well as other kind of behavioral and life and self-report markers from clients. So the objective measures we use are the GAD-7 for anxiety, the PHQ-9 for depression. Those are normed for ages 12 and up, so everyone 12 and up gets those scales. At admission, at different times during their interval of care to gauge progress, and then at discharge. We look at a 5-point reduction in that is what we put as the marker, and we want to get 70% of that as well. We were at 48% with our discharges, but when we analyzed this quarter, we did have a lot of anomaly discharges of people who left the community, left Florida, left the country prior to completing their care. But we still count them because they're a discharge, so we looked at that. They did not make the 5-point reduction in either the anxiety or depression scale. For children, we look at the pediatric symptoms checklist. That is normed for ages 4 through 16, and that is an emotional and behavioral marker for children, where we're looking at a 10-point discount, and that's included in that 48%. Overall, though, because this is the last quarter of 2018, I do want to say for 2018, our overall successful discharge rate was at 76%, and that we had 127 clients with asymptomatic anxiety at admission that averaged an 8-point decrease in their number from the beginning to the end of care, exceeding the 5-point marker we look for, and we had 132 clients with problematic depression that had an 8.9-point decrease. The pediatric symptoms checklist that we talked about for ages 4 through 16, we're looking at a 10-point decrease on that scale, and our average was 15.7. So we're making a lot of gains with who we treat. Our last outcome is what we look at for screenings. We do a lot of outreach following screenings. We are trying to, because that's a walk-in service, that unknown person, we have that immediate access for high-risk mental health concerns, and the acuity level is rising and rising. We're looking at safety within 48 hours of that service encounter. And we verified through verified contact that 129 of the clients screened were safe within the 48 hours. I did also reference here that we do make attempts. You know, we had 12 people we weren't able to reach by phone. We sent 15 letters. So we do multiple ways to try to verify that contact, but we were in 100% compliant with that objective. And it really reflects that we're maintaining that crucial care component of maintaining safety in the community.
I have a question. Me. That's a 3-month period?
October, November, and December of
Yeah.
2018.
And, you know, a lot of times these symptoms come back, so will they continue and you'll track them, or do you have to wait until they get to that point again? How does that work?
Are you talking about the anxiety, depression
Yeah.
scales?
That's what I'm talking.
These are clients that are no longer in our care. And like I said, we were below our 70% marker. So these are clients that either ended their episode of care abruptly. We had some people end due to medical, needing surgery, needing to go to rehab, a loved one's medical, leaving the area, leaving the country. I hope we'll hear from them, but we might not.
But do you track repeats?
We have an electronic record system, so if they came back into our care and back to the community, they would. We do have a
think
lot
it
of
would-
return visitors.
I think
but-
that would be of interest, I'm sure, for you all to see, you know, if they're returning.
Right, and
because-
it's always a good thing to, we do get a lot of referrals from friends and families, people that have had care, that, you know, when they know a neighbor, they have a loved one, a relative, a coworker, they're gonna say they had good care in MHA. And you know, I've been with MHA since 2007. We do see people come back around because of an emerging life issue. They had a successful course of care, or maybe an unsuccessful, but they know to come back.
Okay,
And we're that safe haven for them.
thanks, Ginny.
You're welcome. Satisfaction data? Okay, all right. These are the satisfaction data. You guys have that on your slide. I believe you have that in your report. But really what we're looking at is people, we look at markers of strongly agreeing or agreeing with, we now also have a new marker for you that we're surveying psychiatry clients separately. We have a psychiatrist and a psychiatric nurse practitioner, as well as with therapy and as well as with screenings. The two markers we look at for client satisfaction for screenings, we have a very long survey that they fill out, but the two markers we've always reported onto this board has been strongly agree or agree that they're less stressed following being screened, with an expectation we would get at 70%. Of course, we want 100, but and then or strongly agree or agree that they feel more hopeful subsequent to their screening. We were below on both of those markers, but we also had a very, very high acuity level to the people that we saw. In this quarter alone, we had to administer 4 Baker Acts to prevent imminent risk of harm to self, as well as 1 voluntary admission into psychiatric hospitalization. So the acuity level, you know, we also look at those standards for the therapy clients, and when we can do more intervention with people that are in a very bad mental health state, we do help them get more hopeful and less stressed. But some clients are coming to us, particularly this quarter, with very, very significant life stressors. Angela mentioned it was the holidays. It's a very rough time, people that have had losses and deaths in their family. But we had, for our markers for ongoing care, we were well above our 70%. We had 82 to anywhere to 100% satisfaction results back from our clients.
Drop-in centers?
Okay. Can I ask you a question about the patient satisfaction surveys? How do you conduct those surveys?
We actually have them do it paper and pen. We have an anonymous slot drop box in our lobby. We have those available in our lobby. We have them available in every service office. At times, we ask every person at checkout, and we do ask every person we screen when we escort them back out, whether they're waiting to talk to someone else for linking or we're preparing some of our educational worksheets that we give people. We want to give people things in writing for their health and wellness. Sometimes, people maybe don't put it in the box, so we don't get 100% compliance with who we asked. We did, and it was this quarter, we actually had someone come back later in the day and said, I forgot to leave this in the box, and just came back in to drop it in.
Well, am I looking at this wrong, that depending upon which response, there's 27 to 45 respondents out of 1,000 patients?
But when you look at objective on this page, 6 and 7, those are for psychiatry visits only.
Mhm.
So we did have 27 respondents under psychiatry. And if you have the number for the number of visits, I'm looking for that page.
Go back to the slide, the number of visits.
We had
95.
195, yeah. And,
What we
We-
do
we
is
do-
we have to take a random sample, so once a week, we randomly sample, so it becomes a random sample, since it's not the same people all the time, and if they refuse to do it.
And this is a total mix of your clients,
Correct, because
not
it's
just district.
random
people.
sample day,
All right.
except on the screening part, on the 45, we ask every person, but most of them are just like, they went through the screening process, and they're like, okay, but we give it to them, and whether they complete it,
Okay.
And we have
Just-
looked at other mechanisms like possibly budgeting to get iPads. So sometimes people like to do it electronically because right now we input these through paper and pen. But it's a good point. At one point, we did have a little monitor with a keyboard that people could take their survey in the lobby. Everyone hated that. They didn't want to stand there at a little kiosk, but we try to get as much feedback as we can, and we really listen to what our clients have to tell us about our care and what's working. It's a collaborative relationship. We try to partner with them so they have the best treatment outcome and the best care experience.
Okay.
Okay, we'll go to the drop-in centers, and for the drop-in centers, they're peer-based drop-in centers. We have one in Vero Beach, which some funding comes from the hospital district. We have one in Okeechobee and Martin County, which is strictly just from Southeast Florida. So with the drop-in centers, it's a little bit different than the outpatient because you see a lot more visits over the holidays. You have more of the severe and persistent mentally ill. They don't have a lot of families, so they actually, and there's a lot of events going on at the drop-in center between Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. So just in the Vero, we had 140 unduplicated people. And out of those people, there were over 2,400 visits, which is quite a bit, but that's typical of the holidays and the support they need. And then our Martin County Drop-In Center has 78 unduplicated with 876 visits, and Okeechobee with 94 unduplicated and 1,600 visits.
What's your theory on why Vero is so much higher?
Well, it's just probably because we have a better participation, a bigger center. Our other centers aren't, they're small in plazas. We can provide extra transportation to them here. We have a great transportation system.
Location's better here than there is in Martin as well.
Okeechobee just speaks for itself. I mean, actually, that's great numbers for Okeechobee, and that's all that they have out there, and Hilda does a great job. Martin County, we're trying to increase that again, and I think it's just kind of how the locality is, and we do have a lot of mental health court clients attending our drop-in centers as well. They really utilize it. So we're working on the improvements in the outer counties and trying to see what we could do. We just put one of our vans over into Martin County to help that increase, and it has a little bit.
We had the Ellis family donate us a beautiful building in Vero Beach for our drop-in center, the former Greens Plus Market. It's a standalone building. It has grounds. The members can garden. There's huge parking areas, just lovely separate areas for the computer lab, for arts and crafts, for group meetings. You know, the breakfast area where the women's group does tea when they have their women's group. It's a lovely facility.
If you haven't been there, I'll be glad to take any of you on a tour. It's an excellent place. The people who go there, they get music therapy, they get art therapy. The other day I was there for a few hours and I played Pictionary and Hangman for the first time with everybody there. And it's funny, some of them were some of my past patients. So they knew me as Dr. Nick, and it's a really great place. They do cooking, they go on field trips, bowling, and to other things. It's exceptional. I think it keeps a lot of people.
Yeah, and I
treated
do want to
off the street.
remind you, the providers are the community providers, primarily New Horizons. When we went, 2 case managers were there. And I used to supervise them, so it was nice to see them. But, you know, they're just so involved in it. So these are clientele that aren't really seen on our outpatient. Some of them are, but more of the chronic. They have, you know, targeted community case managers, and they're with Legacy, New Horizons, Sequel Care. So they're having a different service provider side. So going over the satisfaction data, for the quarter we had 28 clients, and this is just for the Vero Beach drop-in because you don't really want to hear the satisfaction in the outer counties that you don't subsidize. But the drop-ins, is the drop-in center important to your well-being? 100% responded yes. Does the center provide a place where you feel accepted? 100% responded yes. Does the drop-in center have a positive impact on your life? 97% responded yes. Does it provide a place where you feel safe? 93% responded yes. Do you feel less isolated than before? 97% responded yes. Do you feel more stable now? And 97 responded yes. Would you recommend the drop-in center to others? 100% recommended it to others. And it's kind of neat to kind of see this scale because we let them check all that apply. You know, what do you like most about it? And, you know, 82% said it was something to do. 75% said making friends. 86% said getting support. 64% said meeting people. 71% said common interests. And 75% to support their recovery. And then what do you see as benefits you at the drop-in center? Well, of course, 93% was socialize with peers. 82% says support and manage your mental health. 75% said feel part of the community. 79% said meaningful activities. And 60% improve your physical health, which that we would like to see increased because eating better, and we actually applied for a food program to help with that, so we're hoping to get that in the future.
What's your age range?
Oh gosh, it goes from, they're adults, so it's 18 to 100. When you,
Right.
the average
Majority
age
are
range,
seniors, or-
probably, is between 30 and 50 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but we're seeing some older people go there too, and you know, we've had some people in our counseling center, and we're like, well, you just kind of you don't really need therapy, you need peer support. So, and then I'd see them over at the drop-in center and just flourishing. So, it's a variety.
But the majority, you'd say between 30 and 50
Yeah.
On average.
on
Yeah.
average, yeah.
And I mean, you see a lot of people with schizophrenia and stuff, so that kind of comes out in your early 20s. So, and when they start getting treatment, they start usually between the 30s. You know, they want to participate. But you know, they run so many different programs. We do a whole health action management out of there. We actually have AA coming in and trying to do more things for them on the holistic approach and well, health and like I said, we run our mental health court peer program out of there as well. So that's very helpful to those mental health court clients because they're getting the socialization. They're becoming members and continuing on. So we add these extra responses because we kind of want to know, how is their mental health, and, so we want to know if they've been hospitalized in the past 3 months. 89% said no, and that's actually pretty good for the real chronic population. And I know, because I came from a case management field, that most of the clients coming there probably wouldn't be alive because it's the only place they get food or have a purpose to get up during the day. So in the last 3 months, have you thought about suicide? 89% said no. In the last 3 months, have you attempted? 96% said no. And with the last 3 months, have you been arrested? 96% said no. Is there any questions about the drop-in? No, it's a lot of information.
I'd like to say something. Put that slide back up,
Okay.
please. I just want to say, if you take a look at this slide, I think these results are outstanding, considering these are adults with chronic, persistent mental and behavioral problems. To see satisfaction like this, I think our people, which are peer-driven, these places are peer-driven, I think they're doing one hell of a good job, and I just wanted to tell you guys that I'm proud as hell.
Good.
He's going to visit there a lot more often.
I enjoyed Pictionary a lot. Okay, carrying on the finance, as you can see, our cash position's pretty good. We have an operating checking account of $103,470.13, a money market account of $131,435.94, an endowment fund of $383,611.36. This is all as of December 31st, 2018. These numbers have increased. Our endowment fund is increased considerably with the change in the market, obviously, although we're very conservative with what we do. We have a new endowment fund, the Dr. Brugnoli Endowment Fund, which is for children and veterans, and we're at $29,254.66. For the 3 months ending December 31st, 2018, revenues and expenses noted below, $350,000 and change. In revenues, expenses $385,000 for a net loss of $35,000. MHA is running a net loss of $35,000 for the first quarter of its fiscal year. Lost about $23,000 less than we budgeted for due to vacant positions. We're looking for a current fund development director. If any of you know anyone, please send them our way. About 1/2 of the loss was anticipated based on the donation cycle, as we discussed before. Anne-Marie, you're always volunteering for everything. And by the way, I saw that you were volunteering at the Gifford Health Center yesterday. You need a doctor to volunteer with you, I'll go.
There you go.
I'll work with you any day.
There you go.
Still got to get his work done.
There you go.
We've got a volunteer, doctor.
But, and as far as that's concerned too, although that's off the topic of what we're discussing here, we at the Mental Health Association would be glad to continue, in spite of whether anybody's there doing physical health, we will continue taking care of the kids in terms of mental health throughout the term and beyond, hopefully.
Thank you.
Basically, our annual fund and special events income will be reflected better in the next quarter. Like I said, in January, we've already tripled what we did last month. So, that being said, regarding other business, our violence prevention program continues to be a priority. I signed the contract with the school district.
Can you go back to the graph?
I'm sorry, the graph, yes. The graph just shows the finances I described pretty much there, and as you could see, like you noted earlier, that it's showing a decreasing amount. We've tripled that number.
Well, December, I would expect, would be the most populous month.
It's usually not, because, well, first of all, there's less
Okay.
business days, okay?
Well,
And
that's
then,
true.
and then you have a lot of people making plans and they don't. It's post.
Okay,
It's either pre or post.
okay.
And we've seen that in January. Our screenings tripled in January. We have been so busy, and they're continuing into February. So you always kind of see that downward trend at that beginning of the fiscal year, which does not worry us because it always picks back up on the post.
And the numbers themselves go down because, kids are on holiday, people are vacationing, they have family over if they have family, but the numbers of the people we do see, their symptoms are much heightened. So it's actually both. There's not as many
So less
people, but the
people, but
people
more
you
severe.
see are are
We did
really
just
in
as-
trouble.
We did as many therapy services as we normally do. It's just the screenings went down, and the visits, and then you had physicians on vacation and
Okay.
clinicians on
And,
vacation.
and you'll have a better trend over the next quarter and the following quarter
Oh,
as
you'll see
things
a big-
increase.
Yeah.
Any
So
other
now you
questions
can
regarding
go.
finances? Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Okay, no worries.
Now,
With regard to other business, our violence prevention program continues to be a priority. We continue to work with the River School District on finalizing the contract. I signed the contract. I'm meeting with Alicia Reyes on Monday, the 25th, and their lawyers to discuss anything further, and it's looking good.
When do you anticipate starting?
Probably within the next month, for sure.
Well, and you know, there is, for the ninth grade intervention, there is a truncated version where we can do, for the 10 modules, 3 a week, starting next week and taking out spring break. And the last week, there are 11 more weeks of the school year. We know that this funding goes into October, so we're gonna try to figure out if we maybe have to work with the 2019 to 2020 group of ninth graders for that portion. Tuesday, I'm meeting with the monthly meeting of the school board behavioral intervention specialists. They have their new mental health coordinator, who's a psychologist, Dr. Sharon Packard, who's been working closely with us. Dr. Lillian Torres Martinez is on a medical leave, but will be back. And then we've been working with all the school, they call them school social workers. They're not licensed clinical social workers, but they're the mental health professionals in the school. So on Tuesday, I'm gonna be meeting with all the behavioral intervention specialists for all the schools, including elementary and middle school, about, there's an alarming increasing trend in the elementary schools as well with self-injury. So, you know, we're so grateful that you guys were willing to do this outreach for community youth, and we do continue to work with the school board, with all our community partners, to share our expertise in risk management and crisis intervention. And you know, so I'm going to do that in service with them, and we just keep sharing our tools
I'm
and our wealth of
concerned
knowledge.
because when we approved the money, the program was supposed to start in January for the ninth graders, right? For that semester.
When I started in January, there were still some difficulties with the contracting with the school district, and then Dr. Flores was ill, and she's out for a while. So basically, we worked out the details of the contract since I started January 2nd, and it'll be finalized on Monday with
I
Alicia
guess it's
Reyes.
just disturbing to me that the school district wasn't,
Yeah,
although they
considering,
were there asking
Con-
for
con-
support for the money, they
considering you guys
prepared.
were kind enough to give us that grant, which we thank you for, and we will finish this, I guarantee it. And
I
you
think
can
we need
bank-
follow-up on all of that to see if they're going to help sustain that in the future. Now you're talking about lower grades having problems. I mean,
Yeah.
so,
And we've been doing, you know, we have your funding, we have been working with, this is for the 2 high schools, we've been working with all grades, doing that reactive and proactive safety planning, doing the risk, doing the stability management, but we've had to do it out of our offices.
Yeah, we've done some
at this time.
outpatient
And-
work with high schoolers in accordance with the funding agreement, but we're looking forward to getting in the schools and getting the answers that we need.
Yeah, well, they
but
were supposed to
if
be
it's
prepared for
delayed,
that.
these students will not have the complete course. Is that what you're saying?
There are, starting next week, there's 12 weeks, including
Yeah.
rain week left, but I'm not gonna count the last week because it's kind of finals week and it's a different kind of schedule. We could do a truncated version of the program, like I said, until we, you know, Dr. Nick can get that finalized. We've had a real education working with the school district risk
Right.
management department and their team of attorneys, but it's in Dr. Nick's hand, and
We
trying.
found a friend in the substance awareness centers that have been working with the schools on the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade levels, and Carrie has been quite helpful to me in terms of finalizing this contracting arrangement and making sure that there's nothing unusual in our contract that there isn't in anyone else's.
Okay.
And
I
that,
think
basically
we
the
need to follow up
contracting.
with
Yeah,
the
if
school
you don't,
district.
Yeah, well, if you could push some buttons, I'd appreciate it. I've already signed the contract, so.
yeah, if, is this on?
We can hear you.
Oh, that's better. If this contract cannot be signed immediately, or if we recognize, and I hope you understand the fiduciary responsibility we have with the taxpayer dollars, sometimes a program can't happen. It's happened to me in my organization, and I've had to go to the funder and say, great idea, hasn't worked out, let's talk about this. I would rather, personally, this is my personal opinion, I would rather have that happen than push it through and not have it done the proper way for these children. So please take that into consideration.
And I gotta tell you,
It's-
we have
it's-
not been idle in this delay. You know, we actually even paid ourselves. We've done interactive training with the Boffin Life Skills Training Team. We are sequencing with the school board to get the pre and post survey data from the ninth graders.
I
mean,
don't think it's an issue of you guys and what
No,
you're
no,
doing. I
no.
think it's a
But-
disappointment on our part.
I
that
can assure you,
We
it's,
assumed that the
it's-
school district was ready to be able to support doing this, and apparently it's not.
they, basically, I can, those are all excellent points, but I can assure you that this will be done and it'll be done correctly.
I'm sure with you on board, that will happen. We're just very interested. I know that we really have supported this. We're hoping that the school district will move right along with it. It's very important for our kids in this community, and we're behind it. And so if you have any problems, get in touch with us, and we'll go knock on their door.
Thank you, but I've been assured by Ms. Reyes that on Monday, everything will be knocked out.
I'm just, this was September, and if you remember correctly, we had, we had a lot of discussion, and we talked to the school district, and
Right.
they gave the impression that they were just waiting.
Unfortunately, I wasn't here for that.
I know
but-
you weren't, I'm just,
Well, change is always difficult too, and you have to get back, you have to get back on track, but we have confidence in you all, and I
They're,
know this will
they're
happen.
excited about it. I know that they are. On the ground level, I think their attorney was just being a bit of a pain on one section, which we have ironed out.
sometimes you have to tell the attorneys to step aside.
Sometimes they just muddy it up so much in a way that we're trying to help the kids, and
We understand.
that's
we understand.
basically it.
We want to
just
just be
want-
there to help
And
you.
we also have the beginning of the school year as well, if we have to, that we can use some of those days too, because our fiscal year ends September 30th, so,
Right.
But if
School
you're giving
starts
it to the ninth graders, so,
correct.
We picked that,
And it's-
it is a training, it is the high school Boffin Life Skills Training. So the training itself is not reserved for ninth graders. The ninth graders is who the school board picked. And we wanted to do something universal. We obviously couldn't do it for all grades just because of the cost it would take even for the student workbooks. So, we have the potential, those ninth graders hopefully will all graduate and be 10th graders. So we have the potential to possibly work with those children as well.
so basically you're saying you would break it up. You would do a portion of it this school year and finish it next school year.
No,
If we
no,
couldn't do a truncated version.
we could, if we don't have the ability to do a truncated version with this school year's ninth graders, we could possibly at the start of next year when they're 10th graders do it with them. But, that wouldn't be through the HOPE classes. The HOPE classes and the HOPE teachers were who I met with to do it for ninth grade. But, that would be something we would expect the school board to work with us. We definitely want to express gratitude to you. We know that this board had a lot of reluctance to fund this program, but we are really using that. You funded it and put it in place to do something that's going to have longevity for these students, for the school, for the community, and really consult with them so much about the risk factors, do training, do outreach, do things above and beyond the program. And your confidence in the votes of who we got, is giving us that foray, because the need is astronomical of what's going on in the schools.
So please follow up and let us know in the
Let
next
us know.
week or days or whatever it is, what the plan is to start, and we will follow up with the school district as well.
I'll be glad to talk with all of you, and I assure you, and I'll take full responsibility for this program being done and being done properly.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. Keep
It'll
your
be
feet to the
fine.
fire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are any other questions regarding the report?
you.
All right, great. Oh, by the way, yeah, we are still continuing at 3 Boys and Girls Clubs with the skill building, which is a part of a Quail Valley grant that we received, so. Thank you all very much. It's nice to see you all.
Thank you.
for what you've done.
It's interesting, the school board fell down on the job.
Yes, they did. Not a surprise, not a surprise. Okay, any unfinished business? New business, now we have the audit. Kip?
Good evening. Nice to see you all again. It's my pleasure to walk you through the audited financial statements for your year ended September 30, 2018. We've completed the audit and we have our report published. I believe you hopefully have a copy in front of you, so I'll walk through the document, talk through a few things, but if you have any questions, please sing out and we'll address your questions. To set the stage, you are a governmental entity as a special taxing district, so there are required reporting provisions to your annual financial statement. And the first section, as you move past the audit opinion, which is a clean, unmodified, highest level of audit report that you can attach to your report. It's a good thing. I don't mean to bypass that so quickly, but that is significant. You come
I
to...
can hear that, Kip.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Page 3 is the beginning of the management's discussion and analysis, and this first section of the report is actually your section. Mr. Jones and Mrs. Soriano and I spent a lot of time working through that. We worked through that together because of all that you've been through this past year and are looking forward to be working through yet still. They took a pretty close eye to that and went through and added some things and restructured some things. So it covers what's required, and it does bring analysis to the more salient points of your operations for this past year. So as we work through on page 3, one of the things that they added, in addition to disclosing your mission and vision, to give it context, they added in a discussion about what the Special District Act was for establishing your organization. So that overview is provided, and as part of that overview, it provides a table on the bottom of the page, Table 1, that gives you an overview of the tax structure for the county, and in particular, how you fit into that structure. And so when you look at the table of the some 16.3 billion of taxable value in the county, $15.69 millage is assessed, of which you come in as part of that at less than $1 at 88.94 cents, which is about 5.7% of the total taxing millage. So you represent a relatively minor component of the overall millage. And when you
Repeat that.
5% of the taxing.
Relatively minor, okay.
So when you look at also in context of your millage in relation to the Special Taxing District Authority, you have an ability to tax it at the maximum of 5 mils, and you're less than 20% of that at less than $1. So that establishes a little bit of context for your financial position and condition. And so as you continue through, as part of that, on page 4, it provides a discussion of your current strategy and how you view your operations. And Table 2 provides 3 examples of impact. It's not all inclusive, but it is meant to provide a little bit of overview as to the impact that your taxing dollars have on the county. So it's informative, gives some context to your operations and how they've been for the past year. So you have been busy. I know you've been earning your pay, which is to say pay of 0, just for the record, in case anybody's out there listening. Obviously, you volunteer your time and you've been very busy. And so the major initiatives that you had over this past year begin on the bottom of page 4 with the Cleveland Clinic, very significant process which continued obviously after your fiscal year end, but it gives an overview of that. On top of page 5, your initiatives continue with the fee-for-service. initiative that you've been implementing over the last couple of years. You've been on a fee-for-service for some of the organizations. Some of them have been funded on a grant basis, and you've been migrating more and more fully to the fee-for-service process. And so that gives some discussion about that. The third component, eligibility, you fund on an indigent basis up to those that have income 150% of the poverty level. And your exploration this past year and continuing into the future have been looking at the 200 to 250% of the poverty level. Somewhat in line with some of the discussions you've had with the Cleveland Clinic. So that's a third initiative. And then the fourth initiative that you were working on through the year is the Gifford Health Center in terms of reviewing those operations and how you are examining the complex or the complement of operations that are there. Of course, this is staged and presented as of your fiscal year, and I know it doesn't really talk to some of the more recent considerations that have been going on in the last couple weeks. So that you have to put yourself back into the fiscal year, even though we're now 4 months past that, 5. Okay, so those are your 4 initiatives, and then we begin with the financial highlights on the bottom of page 5, and you can see that your net position decreased by some 22%, down to $3.6 million. You had increased expenses over the year, on the prior year, of $1.8 million, but remember the initiatives we've been talking about, you expended a lot of professional fees and consultations associated with the Cleveland Clinic analysis and negotiations. And the point to this paragraph is in there, if you read through it, it also talks about the fact that that was planned. You provided for that in your budget, you analyzed your financial position and felt that you had some, built up some cash reserves that you could release, and so you did that through your budgetary process. So while most organizations would not want to see that statistic and discussion, of course that was something that you planned for as part of your process. The discussion continues on. I'm not going to hit every point because honor of your time, but I want to hit some of the areas. We get into, on page 7, table 3 gives you an overview of your financial position on a condensed basis. You had total assets of $5,698,000 this year, down from the $5,823,000 in the prior year. Primarily related to your cash position, that decreased by some $387,000 during the year from the prior year end. Your liabilities stood at $2,057,000, up from the $1.1 million in the prior year. Some of that's just timing of some of the indigent care funding that you had and the agreement to fund additional budgetary dollars for the medical center. And then the increase in professional fee activity, of course, increased that area too. So the net of your assets and liabilities presents the equity in the organization and referred to the net position for the taxing district, and that stands at $3,640,000. $1.4 million in net investment in your fixed asset structure. The balance of the $2,225,000 is essentially your cash reserves that you have available. We'll see later on, but you'll remember that as you get to your fiscal year end, you're now to the point where you have received your revenues earlier in the year, and you've managed those to get to the end of the year until you start the new revenue cycle with the taxing process. And you've set a minimum threshold of $1.5 million for getting through those couple months after year end till you start seeing the tax dollars coming in. And so at $2,225,000, you're well above the $1.5 million minimum threshold. Table 4 presents your revenues and expenses. Total revenues, $13,925,000, about $1.5 million up from the $12,393,000 in the prior year. The increase in the operating expenses of $1.8 million that I mentioned before overall provided for a net decrease in your position of just over $1 million. But again, that's something you'll see in a minute that you had planned for. Table 5 on the top of page 8 presents an overview of the various different fundings to the agencies that you've provided. And you can see that those fundings stood at $12,778,000 for the year, up from the $11,879,000, or just under $900,000 increase over the prior year. And so there's some discussion that goes through in the following pages that talks about the various agencies that you funded. The middle of page 9 gives a discussion of the increase in the administrative expenses, principally relating to the professional fee area. Table 6 on page 9 gives the overview of your fixed asset structure. And then on page 10, table 7 gives an overview and comparison of your budget for the year compared to your actual results. And you can see that you came in fairly close on the various different line items. Your total revenues of $14,248,000 was about $74,000 under what you had planned and budgeted for. Related to those, however, you actually ended up with a budgetary net increase in your revenues because when you look at the provision that you had for the property appraiser and tax collector commissions, you had a favorable variance of about $160,000 there. So net, you ended up with about a $90,000 positive variance on your revenues.
It's pretty close, don't you think?
Very close.
Yes.
Yep.
We have a very good treasurer.
The point to that's hard to know exactly where it's going to come out are some of the collectability issues that the county has, and they pass those non-collectible taxes on to you as well, and that varies from year to year. From an expense standpoint, you budgeted $15.3 million. You ended up at $15,292,000, so you actually had a $9,000 overall positive variance on your expense side. Now again, some of that relates to those commission structures that we had included in there, and so when you dive into some of the other components, you had a $71,000 additional over budget expenditure on the indigent care funding, so that counts as an unfavorable variance. And then despite the generous provision on your professional fee area, you ended up with a $256,000 unfavorable variance there. So that's a hard thing to know when you're going through those consultations, how much you're going to spend, and you did spend about $250,000 more overall. And then lastly, in the section of the MD&A is on page 11 and 12, it gives an overview of a more forward-looking basis, what things that are coming into play that you plan for and expect to work through in the period subsequent to your year-end reporting. And so those go through a variety of things. Again, we stand 4 or 5 months after year-end, so we know already almost halfway through your fiscal year, a lot of that effort was spent on Cleveland Clinic, and that's discussed there. The continuing analysis of the property level for funding, mental health initiatives that you're going through and that we just heard about, the strategic planning that we're going through that you met earlier this week on and you have as an agenda item. So those are the things that you are continuing to focus on, and that's what's been reported on in your report. So that's your discussion as part of it. It does relate to the audited financial statements and provides an overview more in depth. The rest of the financial statements I'm going to zip right through. They're presented in more detail on some of the information we've talked about, but if you wanted to look more into your balance sheet, your income and statement activities, you could do that in the basic financial statements. The footnotes are also provided there as additional supplemental information to the financial statements. There's several pages on your accounting policies. The positive message there really is that they are the appropriate accounting policies for the taxing district, and they are consistent from year to year for the reporting. So those are the two key things to glean from the policies. The rest of it really covers what we've talked about. And so the last and third section of the annual financial report relates to the special required reporting letters that go with the governmental type report. We have a auditor's letter that talks about internal control over financial reporting and compliance matters. It's a boilerplate report. If there were any significant or material weaknesses to identify, they'd be reported here. You'll see in reading through that there are none. So it's an unmodified report. And then the Florida Auditor General's Office requires a management letter to discuss various different specific topics, and that's there for you to read. The matters that are reported there are, again, boilerplate. There's nothing really to disclose of any significant nature. So that is your annual financial report. A lot goes into that. As a side comment and a side benefit out of an audit process, commonly we'll look through accounting practices and policies, and if there are any issues of any significant level that we need to bring to your attention, we would do that. We have none in any side special letter. We have talked about some restructuring and some efficiency gains that you might gain by looking at your accounting process. So we've had some discussions to include a meeting this morning, and Mr. Jones certainly referenced that in his discussion. So I think that's a healthy process to go through every year or occasionally. So that's my report. Happy to answer any questions.
It's a very well-written report, though. I mean, and in-depth. And, you know, I really do want to thank you, Alan, for the time and effort that he puts in on this with Anne Marie on this. You both do a great job in making sure and keeping us on track and doing it right. So that's really excellent.
Thank you. We have noticed some things we can do better. So we'll make those recommendations to you going forward. I want to emphasize how thorough I think Kip and his team have been, and a great pleasure to work with. Give us a lot of insight, and we'll be back to you with specific recommendations. But I do want to underscore what Kip said about how we planned to take reserves and use them so that we minimize the impact on the millage rate as we went through extraordinary expenses last year, not only for Cleveland Clinic, but also for the Human Services Building and even the Gifford Health Center, some modifications there. And we increased spending at the same time to the programs that are benefiting members of the population of the community. Right. And we did all that by being certain that not only we minimize the millage rate relative to what we needed to do, but we did it in a way that just made sure that if we're taxing people, we're going to spend it on the public benefit and not keep it in the bank account just in case. Right. And I mean, there's a balance there to be struck clearly, but that's the reason that the net position has declined. And we all talked about that. I mean, all of us had our fingerprints on that deal, and we did that. And so I'm glad it worked out. Going forward, it should be easier, I hope.
So,
I thank you for your efforts.
okay, well, thank you. I appreciate the
That was
comments.
a good report. Thank you.
Yes,
Very well
thank you very much.
Thank you. And always, I appreciate the opportunity to work with you. Thank you.
We appreciate it, Kip. Jenny, you're going to present. Do we need to vote on that, the acceptance of it?
On the accepting the financial statement?
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt.
Oh,
The audit.
So moved.
thank you. Okay. Okay, may I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, and any other comment relative to it? All right, all in favor as presented? Aye, okay, thank you. Just wanted to make that official.
Well, that was a tough act to follow. But in your packet, you have the 2019 federal poverty guidelines that were effective January 11th, 2019. As we have done in the past, these guidelines are used to determine our eligibility for financial assistance for our indigent care program at 150%. And so I have them listed here in your packet. And I know that we are in discussions of raising that to the 200. So I don't have that in your package, but I do have the calculations for what they would be for, like, a family size of 1 would be $24,980. And family of 4 would be $51,500 at the 200%
At the 200%?
level. Yes. So you would see that would, encompass a lot more people in our Alice population that would become eligible for our services. So, and I think we talked yesterday that this is something that you vote on to approve.
Yes, so this will now be the guidelines that you use for the care card.
Correct, correct. And each of the agencies have these already and are using them for this fiscal year.
So it's time we vote on them.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the new poverty level guideline dollar amount of 150%.
Can I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Or all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
That's
Um,
not to say we won't be reviewing this going forward.
Are we scheduled to talk about when we're to go up to the 200 to 250? I think
I'm ready.
we said that, yeah. I
We've certainly.
thought we said we were going to do that and make a decision at the latest by April, because that will make a difference to our budget, right?
So
Right?
we can, yep,
Okay.
you want to do a special meeting to talk about it, or? think
I
about
don't know that we need a special
Okay.
meeting. I just think we need to make it an agenda item and come to an agreement.
Yep.
So we can vote on that.
Longer meetings, because we've got other things on our plate.
We always do. Okay, thank you, Jennifer, we appreciate that.
Well, can I just,
Yes,
I have done some calculations,
of course you have.
as you might expect, yeah.
Of course you have.
And based on the number that Anne Marie Soriano had brought out from the census data. And so I'll be sending that out to you with some
Good.
comments. Well, I can't send it to you, because by
Anne
law.
Marie- Anne Marie
I will
be
send it to Anne Marie, and if in her judgment, she would want to send it out to you, then we'll do that. So,
For your future discussion.
just so you can have it as background, so that when we talk, we've got data that we can use.
We'll get that scheduled,
Okay.
okay, because we need to have that discussion, we need to make that decision, okay? Okay, other business, the approval of the hospital district strategic plan. We have been working on this for
15 years now. It was 20.
several months, and this is very important because we are in a period of transition as we move away from a focus, which was right with the hospital because they were the majority of the money that we put out. So, and since they will no longer be that, it's important that we understand where we're going. So, Michael, I appreciate the work that you've done with all of us, and we'll let you go through.
Well, I want to thank you, and it's been a tremendous experience working with you guys again, and I really do appreciate it. The message that you've put out to the community in the beginning of the document really is a powerful message in terms of your interest in making yourselves even better in terms of ensuring access to care and health services for the population of the county. And in doing so, you've decided over the last 5 months to pursue a focus on governance, really strengthening your governance going forward, a focus on learning, and there's, in the document itself, there's a series of items that you've decided that are important for you to consider. That, you know, the discussion that you had earlier with the Mental Health Association around metrics, I think they have some powerful metrics, and Jennifer has already started revisiting those ideas again, but strengthening the metrics in your program, funded program agencies is a priority that you've chosen as well too. Communication, communicating more with the general public, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, and strategies that you're putting forward for that as well too. And then the concept of community benefit and return on investment for the taxpayer. You know, what are people getting out of the effort that you're putting forward, and above and beyond the work that you're doing with the hospital and the program funded areas. One of the things that you did alter a little in your deliberations together with the actual mission statement, just to ensure access to care and services resulting in improved outcomes. And you had a lot of discussion around that, a really rich discussion, including the working to improve the healthcare, this is your vision statement, working to improve the healthcare of the community through a collaborative effort. You know, I think the work that you're doing in the Gifford community especially demonstrates your desire to do collaborative health services activity. And I think that's really a plus. I mean, that really is a good example of how you are working with the community to build relationships, et cetera. You decided when we first started, I gave you a draft with 5 goals, and there was a visceral reaction from all of you. And you reminded me, by the way, we are not paid. What we've done is, based on our work together, we've gotten everything down to 2 actual goal statements. And so I'm just going to briefly run through these with you right now. I realize that you have other things to talk about. But the first one is the health district will enhance the governing board operating procedures by January 2020. And we've listed a series of activities. Review and update your leadership job descriptions by April of this year. Just for folks listening, this is really an important endeavor because the role is changing a little bit here over the next couple of years. So it's not just the role of people up here, but it's also the role that you might have in representing the district in other venues, or other relationships in the community too. Reviewing and updating the staff job descriptions, because their positions are beginning to change a little as a result of their community work. Then the third idea that you've rested on is developing a board learning agenda. And so there's a series of action statements around how that would materialize. At the end of this document, there's a list of ideas, and I want to stress that these ideas came from the process that we put in place in working together. One is that we had a lot of key informant interviews with people throughout the community to ask them for their input and advice into your strategic plan. We held some community discussion groups. You used the recent health needs assessment to inform your agenda as well too. So we had a lot of suggestions on ideas and things that you should consider going forward. And that is reflected in the end of the document. The other thing is the setting up having one of you appointed by the chair to be kind of a new health policy lead. What's really important for the district, for the people that you serve, is to keep abreast on the health policy changes, both financing, service delivery, best practices. What are some of the, when I say financing, what are some of the Medicare and Medicaid impacts that are going to happen coming down the road, both at a federal and state level? So it's really valuable to have someone on the board who is tracking and monitoring those particular changes, reporting back to you, so that you can kind of have a good deliberation amongst yourselves and knowing how will that impact on our residents? What will be the impact? And there will be some important future questions coming down the road, and we've talked about some of those. The other thing is that you've rested on is that you want to improve, increase, enhance your relationships with other governmental and non-governmental entities in the community, and so you've assigned several action steps around that particular idea as well too, which would result in possibly having a better understanding and relationship and potential funding strategies with other entities in the community in the future. The second goal then, and that covers the first goal. The second goal was the hospital will, or the district will enhance access to a full continuum of quality and healthcare services for all residents of the county by December 2021. Again, there's a series of action steps that the staff will take with you that will lead you to doing that. You will evaluate the potential impact and amending funding criteria by 2020. That's another thing that again, coming up from your previous presentation by the Mental Health Association. You're going to conduct a feasibility analysis, as it's been mentioned by Jennifer and others, on the increasing the federal poverty level. One of the things that will be important for you in doing that will be having a good discussion on the ACEs and understanding ACEs and what does that mean, really being informed about that. The byproduct of doing that, as we've talked about as a trustees, is to archive that presentation and let the community see it too. And so we've talked about developing methodologies for doing that. You're going to examine and include co-pays and co-deductibles, have a discussion around that, because there's some strong feelings that given the times that it might be prudent for you guys to include that in your thinking. So there's some interest in that. And then you'll make some kind of final policy decisions by the end of this year, December 2019. It sounds that you may make decisions even much sooner than that based on the previous conversation that you just had. You will examine the following policy considerations, and this came up again during our several conversations. The exploration again of the Special Act, and I think really what's important, and it really relates to the conversation that you had with the Mental Health Association on the school program. What is the role that you all have in prevention, and what is the definition of prevention, and what does that mean? And it would really be critical for you really to have a really open, honest conversation around that and kind of settle on how does that relate to your role and responsibility, if it does. And I think we talked about how important that is for you. A discussion on program funding and/or fee for service. I know that many or some of you on the board really feel that it's an important conversation to have. Probably all of you feel this way. It's an important conversation to have, and it really focuses in on, it's not a either or a versus, but it could end up you making a decision that one is better than the other. And that's really an important conversation for you all to have going forward in the future, especially as healthcare financing changes, A discussion around the role in supporting special populations. As Anne-Marie and I had our several meetings with various groups in the community, we were approached and had conversations with two groups in particular, both one representing seniors and one representing children. And so it is important that you have conversations around those particular groups and other groups. Do you have a role in supporting other groups? What is your role in supporting emerging community partners? Oh, I said that's for seniors. Supporting, the other idea too is that, and this is really where I see a powerful role for the district, and that is identifying and supporting gaps in services. Since I've been coming to this community since 2014 and my early work with the Mental Health Collaborative, it's really apparent to me, based on what I've learned here, and this is not unique to your community, this is true all over the United States, that there really is a gaps in services as it relates to substance use and opiates. And so there may be an opportunity for you to look at that particular area and fill a gap as they relate to your community. So that's on your agenda too. And then what's really critical, I believe, is, and an important idea for you, is this concept of full continuum of healthcare. Really looking at from birth to death, that full continuum, and again, looking at that as what does that mean? What is the definition of that? How does it work? And especially align with the new Cleveland Clinic that's coming in, because there's a natural alignment around this concept. And it's an important idea because of, especially of the human and health services that you have in this community. There's an opportunity to really link these up even closer going forward in the future. So having a real understanding of what a full continuum of healthcare means, what it consists of, and looking at are we in that ballpark in this community would be an important conversation for you all to have going forward. Methodologies, this is what I think leads to all of these other things, including the first goal, lead you to the idea of methodology for demonstrating community benefit and return on investment. I believe all these other things lead you to that piece. And so really looking at those other things and then tying it into that. One of the things that you've settled on is developing an annual report to the community that goes beyond the funding or the financial reporting. It's really a listing of the program-funded agencies, the results that they're achieving for you and the community, and really putting that together. And then really taking your current web-based strategy and supporting it with educational aspects and materials, et cetera. And then following all of that were suggestions on topics, and I'll just quickly run over these and then conclude. Population health and the social determinants, that would be an important topic for you to learn. Telehealth as a best practice as a service delivery model. Community gaps in services for substance use and opiates. You heard yesterday from Whole Family the concept of the 340B program. I really think it deserves a little more in-depth conversation because it's really a beneficial program for a lot of people in your community. Primary care best practice models. The concept of the patient-centered health homes or medical homes is really a critical idea. There's a movement in the country around the integration of primary care and behavioral health and care coordination. These are critical ideas for your community, and they fit in line with health information and health records. Mental health and behavioral health, reducing the community stigma to accessing behavioral health services, mental health first aid, trauma-informed care, and then the adverse childhood experiences, or as it's finally known as ACEs. Those are really important things. Best dental health community practices for underserved children and adults, hearing about those kinds of things. And then the additional health policy information that you'll gain from your policy lead on healthcare financing, service delivery practices, practice outcomes, and health policy issues. And then there's a list of additional ideas around potential metrics that we've talked about, both with staff and you as a board. And then some other additional information there relative to national organizations that provide various kinds of resources.
Wow.
But I know you don't have any questions.
Did we say we were going to do all that?
Oh, now she says, let's only do one goal.
You just have to vote on it.
That was very well presented.
Very well done.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Again, thank you for letting me
You need to vote on it, yes.
do this.
You need a motion?
There's a couple of typos and things I just caught while I was looking through. You saw them? Okay, good.
Okay, we'll pretty it up. but
We'll
we'll
take care of
it.
that.
Okay.
Can I hear a motion to approve
moved.
our new strategic plan? May I hear a second?
Second,
Okay, any other conversation? We've had a lot of conversation.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. We have our work cut out for us.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much,
your help in
Michael.
all of that.
travel safely.
Is there any public comment? There's nobody left. Okay, given that, we will adjourn for the evening. Thank you very much, everybody.
Still get home in daylight. Thank you.
All right.